Jarrell, Texas, faced a nightmare so fierce it could have been ripped from the pages of a horror story. An F5 tornado, a swirling demon of wind and debris, descended without warning, obliterating everything in its path. Homes were ripped from foundations and hurled into the air like toys, leaving nothing but splintered wood and memories in ruin. The sky itself seemed to roar, dark clouds twisting into a monstrous funnel that swallowed sunlight and hope alike. Survivors described a hellish sound, a deafening roar that shook the earth and rattled hearts with pure terror. Vehicles flipped, trees snapped like matchsticks, and streets vanished under a tidal wave of chaos and destruction. Emergency crews could barely navigate the wreckage, confronting the aftermath of a storm that had erased entire blocks in moments. Jarrell would forever be remembered as the epicenter of fear, where nature's wrath took form and left a scar no soul could forget. The unstable atmosphere. By noon, the dangerous ingredients for disaster were swirling high above central Texas, largely unseen. Hot, moist air rose from the ground, colliding with cooler winds aloft in violent updrafts. Radar systems revealed signs of rotation, tiny seeds of storms that could blossom into monsters. The National Weather Service began issuing alerts, but their words carried a cautious tone at first. For the people of Jarrell, the warnings felt distant, not urgent enough to change their routines. Farmers wiped sweat from their brows, unaware the same heat fueling crops was feeding disaster. The atmosphere carried an almost electric energy, heavy and pressing against anyone who noticed. Birds fell silent, animals grew restless, and the air itself seemed to thicken unnaturally. Though no tornado had yet formed, the conditions were perfect for something catastrophic. It wasn't just an ordinary storm system. It was a recipe nature rarely created. Moisture, instability, and wind shear combined in dangerous harmony, a rare and lethal balance. Meteorologists, watching the maps, recognized the threat but could not predict its exact target. For Jarrell, the danger was invisible, hidden in skies that still looked deceptively blue. The calm continued below, while chaos brewed far above, beyond anyone's control. As the sun climbed higher, the temperature rose, feeding energy into the unstable air. The system built quietly, waiting for the trigger that would release its fury. Every passing hour tightened the storm's grip on the region's fate. No one knew the worst tornado in Texas history was now only hours away. The clock ticked toward disaster, and the first shadows of the storm began to grow. Nature was setting the stage for a tragedy beyond comprehension. Storms take shape. By early afternoon, towering clouds swelled on the horizon, their edges curling like rolling waves. To many, they looked like ordinary thunderstorms, but inside, chaos was gathering momentum. Radar indicated a supercell was developing, one of the most dangerous storm types known to science. Supercells are infamous for birthing tornadoes, and this one was rapidly intensifying over central Texas. Residents noticed the sky darkening, but still carried on their day, unaware of its true power. Children hurried home from play as thunder rumbled faintly in the distance. Drivers on rural highways looked nervously at the skies but continued their journeys. For meteorologists, the radar signatures were becoming alarming, showing powerful rotation in the storm. The National Weather Service escalated warnings, urging people to be alert for severe weather. But for Jarrell, such warnings felt routine, a common occurrence in spring. Few believed their small town could lie directly in the path of destruction. Still, unease grew as winds shifted and clouds boiled higher into the atmosphere. Farm animals grew restless, sensing the danger nature hides from human senses. Neighbors exchanged glances at the changing sky, unsettled by its strange intensity. The system grew stronger with every minute, feeding on the day's extreme heat. It was no longer a simple storm. It was becoming a machine of violence. By 1:30 p.m., the storm had carved its path, heading straight toward small Texas towns. Its energy was undeniable, and its rotation promised something catastrophic. Jarrell was in its sights, though the residents did not yet know it. The monster was taking shape, and soon it would descend. Tornado touches down. Near the town of Prairie Dell, the storm finally released its fury, birthing a funnel from the clouds. At first, it was thin and rope-like, dancing across open fields in relative quiet. But within minutes, it grew broader, darker, and far more menacing, feeding on endless energy. The tornado widened into a wedge shape, stretching across the land like a moving wall. Its winds screamed at unimaginable speeds, shredding anything caught in its path. Farm buildings disintegrated instantly, reduced to flying debris in seconds. Drivers on rural roads slammed brakes, abandoning vehicles as the monster approached. The roar of the tornado grew louder, described as a freight train mixed with thunder. For meteorologists, the radar signatures now confirmed it. This was catastrophic. The tornado had strengthened rapidly, reaching the maximum rating of F5 on the Fujita scale. Winds over 260 miles per hour churned violently inside the massive funnel. Unlike most fast-moving twisters, this one crept forward slowly, grinding destruction into the earth. Its slow speed meant longer exposure, longer devastation, and fewer chances to survive. The beast was no longer a funnel cloud. It was a grinder of everything in its way. Fields were ripped bare, fences twisted, and massive trees shredded into splinters. Every second it stayed on the ground magnified the destruction it would leave behind. Sirens screamed in nearby Jarrell, their wails carried by the heavy winds. Families rushed for basements, bathrooms, and closets, desperate for shelter. But the tornado was growing larger still, and its path aimed directly for Jarrell. The countdown to catastrophe had officially begun. The beast turns toward Jarrell. The tornado shifted its track southward, steering directly toward the small town of Jarrell. From a distance, residents watched in horror as the enormous funnel consumed the horizon. Its base grew wider, nearly half a mile across, blotting out entire sections of land. The ground beneath it was scoured bare, stripped of grass and soil down to clay. Meteorologists monitoring the storm issued urgent warnings. This was a life-threatening emergency. But for many in Jarrell, the warnings came too late to escape its path. The tornado crept forward at a walking pace, grinding with relentless, unstoppable force. Its slow crawl gave it more time to obliterate everything caught within its grasp. Families huddled in bathrooms, clinging to any shelter they could find. Some prayed, others screamed, while outside the beast approached with deafening fury. Its roar echoed across the fields, louder than any thunderstorm ever heard. Houses shuddered as the winds grew closer, the pressure dropping like a collapsing lung. The funnel widened still further, swallowing fences, barns, and entire fields. Vehicles were sucked upward and hurled like rag dolls into the churning vortex. The storm's track was deliberate, almost merciless, as if drawn directly over Jarrell. The monster was fully locked on target, and nothing could divert its rage. By 3:45 p.m., Jarrell had only minutes left before the storm arrived. The town stood helpless, bracing for nature's most violent strike. The beast was coming, and there was no way to stop it. The moment of impact was now only heartbeats away. The town erased. In less than 5 minutes, a thriving subdivision ceased to exist. Where homes once stood, only bare concrete foundations remained under the blazing sun. The tornado carved a path of annihilation, leaving nothing recognizable in its trail. Cars were mangled in twisted scraps, hurled hundreds of yards from where they once rested. Entire families were wiped away, leaving only fragments of their lives scattered across fields. Emergency radios crackled with frantic voices, unable to comprehend the devastation. The storm continued crawling, grinding away at everything with unstoppable rage. Its destruction was absolute, unlike anything Texas had witnessed before. By 3:55 p.m., Jarrell was no longer the same town it had been an hour earlier. The community was broken, its heart ripped from the earth itself. Rescue would come, but for many, there was nothing left to rescue. The slow-moving monster ensured complete annihilation, sparing no time for escape. Residents who survived emerged in shock, staring at a landscape unrecognizable. The tornado had left scars not just on the land, but on the souls of the people. Silence followed where the roar had been, an eerie emptiness heavier than the storm itself. The scale of destruction was almost incomprehensible, total and merciless. In that silence lay grief, disbelief, and the first painful moments of loss. The town of Jarrell had been erased in less than 10 minutes. It would be remembered as one of the darkest chapters in tornado history. And for Jarrell, the nightmare had only just begun. Silence after the storm. By 4 p.m., the tornado lifted back into the sky, leaving behind a trail of ruin. The once mighty funnel dissolved into the clouds, its work complete, its rage spent. But on the ground, the damage told a story of unparalleled destruction. Fields lay bare, stripped of soil and vegetation as though scraped by giant claws. Houses were gone, neighborhoods erased, and lives extinguished in minutes. Rescuers rushed in, but found little left standing, only devastation stretching for miles. The town was eerily silent, broken only by the cries of survivors. The storm had come and gone, but its shadow would linger forever. The destruction was total, but the silence afterward was almost worse. In that quiet, the weight of loss became unbearable. Neighbors searched desperately for loved ones, but many searches ended in grief. The land bore scars that would never truly heal, even decades later. Jarrell had faced nature's most violent force, and it had lost everything in return. The tornado's slow crawl ensured the devastation was absolute, thorough, and final. Few storms in history would ever match the raw power unleashed that day. The silence after the storm was not peace, but the echo of destruction. By sunset, Jarrell was a town transformed into a graveyard of memories. The storm was gone, but its name would never be forgotten. Jarrell was now etched permanently in the history of natural disasters. And May 27, 1997, was a day that would haunt Texas forever. Aftermath, emergency crews poured into Jarrell, overwhelmed by the scale of the destruction. The landscape was unrecognizable, flattened into raw earth and scattered debris. Survivors wandered aimlessly, shocked by the loss of everything familiar. The death toll mounted quickly, with 27 lives confirmed, lost in the subdivision alone. Rescue workers shifted from searching for survivors to recovering remains. The tornado's violence had left little hope for those caught in its path. Families wept over the bare slabs where their homes once stood. Entire generations were gone, wiped away in minutes by nature's wrath. Scientists arrived soon after, stunned by the magnitude of the storm's power. The Jarrell tornado became a case study in extreme atmospheric violence. It was one of the slowest, most destructive F5 tornadoes ever documented. The Jarrell tornado was not just a storm. It was an act of nature's unthinkable fury. It showed how, in a matter of minutes, entire communities can be erased. It remains one of the most violent F5 tornadoes ever to strike the United States. The scars it left behind still stand as reminders of the fragility of human life. No technology, no preparation could have stopped what unfolded that day. For the people of Jarrell, May 27, 1997, is a date written in pain. The silence after the storm was louder than the roar that preceded it. The memory of lives lost continues to echo through time. Scientists still study the Jarrell tornado to understand its unique brutality. But for those who lived it, no study can explain the depth of their loss. It was not merely destruction, it was erasure, complete and merciless. A town reduced to nothing but foundations and memories. A tragedy that remains a warning of nature's power and unpredictability. The Jarrell tornado of May 27, 1997, remains one of the most violent and haunting natural disasters in American history. In just a few devastating minutes, an entire community was forever altered, its scars etched into both land and memory. But from tragedy comes lessons. Lessons about preparedness, about respect for nature's power, and about the resilience of the human spirit. The story of Jarrell is not just about destruction. It is also about survival, about neighbors helping neighbors, and about the urgent need to take every warning seriously. Nature may be unpredictable, but awareness, preparation, and community support can make the difference between life and death. If you found this story important, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful documentaries on disasters that shaped history. Your support helps us continue bringing these stories to light. So together, we remember, we learn, and we prepare.